Guincho is a Spanish musician, singer, and producer who is known for recording in several different styles. He released his first album in 2007, and he has released three more since then. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the third album by El Guincho, and it's my first time listening to it, but I have done a review of one of his other albums on this list. And I kind of get the impression that it's quite similar. I had a quick look back at that review. So let's try and do some description. It's kind of difficult to describe in some ways, but I'm going to have a go, of course, because that's my job here. Um, it's got a shiny feel to it. There's lots of stuff going on in the kind of high frequency range, but the kind of the top mid into the high, I would say. So on the first track, the kind of dominant sound in that area is steel drums, which is unusual. But there's several other sounds used for that kind of range of notes. Kind of South African pop guitar. And I kind of going to reference Johnny Clegg here as being. There's a lot of South African pop, certainly of the 80s. The stuff that Paul Simon uh, tapped into in Graceland, that sound, the guitars, and synths. There's quite a busy percussion, so that in itself kind of makes it feel world musicy. It could be, you could say that it's African, you could say that it's Latino in some ways. And it's kind of somewhere between those, and it's taking bits from all over. Sometimes it's quite start-stop, and sometimes it's very fixed in syncopated rhythms. There's often a kind of kind of feel to it. Sometimes it's actually quite stuttery. Um, all these things are kind of quite modern pop production. When I say modern, I mean post 2000. But the kind of way things went, yeah, I think maybe we're coming out of it eventually now. But for a while there was this kind of stuttery and start stop and kind of feel, which is like almost like you got syncopated rhythms that would go with a beat, kind of constant beat, but then you take the constant beat away and just leave the syncopated stuff. There's lots of repetition in here, and um, yeah, somehow it kind of reminds me of Duck Rock by Malcolm McLaren. I think that's kind of a slight kind of Afro pop feel to it. The vocals are quite low in the mix, and they're processed in a kind of flat way. Um, I find it hard to describe voices particularly, but the vocal sound here, there's harmonies. It sounds like it's very blended and kind of quite. Um, I don't want to use the word bland because that's not what I mean, but I don't know what I mean. I mean, you just have to listen to it. Some of it it's got this kind of uh, flatness to it, not as in flat as in tuning. I'm really doing a bad job here. Um, like it's been leveled off. It's not really compressed so much as kind of it doesn't go above a certain level. Unfortunately, the sound that's being used here is a sound that I don't particularly like on the vocals. The singing, I believe, is probably in Spanish, but I can't confirm that because my Spanish isn't good enough, and also I couldn't know the words very well. It doesn't form that connection that I would have had if I knew what was being sung. Although, of course, it's possible if I knew what was being sung, I might get irritated by that as well. So I find the vocal, the way the vocals are recorded to be somewhat irritating. I find the stutteriness somewhat irritating, and the kind of uh, that modern pop stutter feel is something I don't like. In other ways, it's quite interesting. It's an interesting combination of different sounds. There are differences in the tracks, but it's quite homogenous across the album, so it very much feels like it's the same sound all the way through. And I'm afraid for me, there's just too many irritations here, so I'm not a great fan. So that's what I think. What do you think? Please do tell me by leaving a comment. I'd love to read it. And that's it from me for now.
Se veía venir, es normal, pero te golpea como lento.